This is a story I haven't thought about in a long time, and for good reason. My friends and we used to love exploring. Growing up in New Jersey, there were enough abandoned places within driving distance to keep us entertained for hours. A lot of the stuff we did wasn't all that cool in hindsight. Just decaying buildings, empty warehouses, stuff like that. But every now and then we'd stumble across something a little more interesting. One place that had been on our radar for a while was an abandoned middle school about a 30-minute drive away. I won't say the name here for privacy reasons, but anyone familiar with North Jersey urban exploring probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. We'd seen photos of the place online and figured it was finally time to check it out. It was late summer, and we were getting bored of our usual activities, which mostly consisted of playing basketball in my backyard and driving around aimlessly. I can't remember who brought up the idea, but it was a pretty spontaneous thing. There were 4 of us that night. Me, Yuri, Frank, and Freddie. Frank and I were into graffiti, so we brought a few cans of black and white spray paint. Beyond that, my bag was filled with some Roman candles I had left over from 4th of July. Our routine with these kinds of things was always the same. We'd mess around inside, get to the roof, shoot some fireworks off, then sprint down before any cops rolled up. This evening would be no different. Yuri was driving. He pulled onto a side street a few blocks from the school and we got out. We made our way towards the school and were pleasantly surprised to see that the fence around the perimeter had already been cut. We were prepared to jump, but I was glad we wouldn't have to. The school was huge, bigger than the pictures online had led us to believe. It would have taken forever to explore the whole thing, but that was a good thing as the 4 of us were prone to get bored very quickly. Frank led the way through the hole, followed by Yuri, then me, then Freddie. Freddie was the most fearless, so he volunteered to bring up the rear. We found a door that wasn't boarded up and stepped inside. Even with our flashlights, it was eerie. Picture your childhood school, only dead silent. Every hallway was stripped down to exposed wires and crumbling tile. Insulation was hanging from the ceiling, and there were bits of broken furniture everywhere. The entrance opened into a hallway, which we happily began walking through after clicking on our flashlights. We all had really powerful flashlights, which was something we were very proud of for whatever reason. When I say powerful, I mean it. Mine was $60 and could illuminate an entire room with a beam strong enough to blind you for a few seconds if you mistakenly glanced at it. The walls were coated in graffiti. Some of it good, some of it awful. Frank and I paused here and there to check out a few tags, but mostly we kept moving. I'll spare you most of the details about the building itself, but it was honestly really cool. Seeing all those seats in a stage that was literally falling apart was a dope sight. We made a quick loop through the basement, which was by far the most run-down part of the school. We didn't spend much time down there, partly because of the wear, but mostly because I could tell my friends were getting creeped out. One of the rooms had a massive pentagram painted on the floor, which wasn't exactly a comforting sight. Creepy, yeah, but it wasn't unusual. Anyone who's done urban exploring knows these pop up everywhere. We didn't linger. The 4 of us eventually made our way to the 2nd floor. One of the classrooms had a completely untouched white wall, basically a blank canvas. Frank and I grinned and started throwing paint up while Yuri and Freddie said they were going to keep exploring and look for a way to the roof. They disappeared down one of the dark hallways while we stayed back tagging. Once we wrapped up our piece, Frank wanted to keep working on another section of the wall. I wandered out of the room to check out some of the better artwork along the nearby corridors. After about 5 minutes of just standing and admiring the art, I heard Frank yell out from behind me. He sounded angry and asked if I was messing with him. I told him I didn't know what he was talking about, and he told me to quit the act. Still angry, before I could figure out what he meant, he said, "I know you took my bag." I swore I didn't do anything, that I had been standing in the hallway the entire time. He believed me and muttered something about how it must have been Freddie. To be fair, it was the type of thing Freddie had a tendency to do. We searched the room with our lights just to be safe, but there was nothing. The bag was gone. We couldn't do much more tagging without the bag since it had all the unused paint in it, so we just went to find the guys, who we assumed were on the roof by then. We went as far up as the stairs would take us, but unfortunately, they didn't lead to the roof. We wandered the floor aimlessly, checking various rooms. At one point I walked into a small side room and froze. There on the wall was another pentagram like the one we had seen in the basement. Only this one was much more ominous. It was freshly painted. I could tell because paint was still dripping down it. And in the corner of the room was Frank's bag, just sitting there. Frank stepped into the room behind me and immediately noticed what I was looking at. Without skipping a beat, he grabbed his bag off the floor and said in a pretty loud voice, "What the hell is wrong with him?" I didn't respond. Even as a joke, it seemed like something that crossed the line a little too much, even for Freddy. We left the room and started walking down a random hallway in silence, just wanting to find our friends. Just then, we heard rapid footsteps thundering towards us. It was Freddy and Yuri who motioned for us to follow them. We didn't even have time to be pissed at Freddy. We just ran. Here's a good rule to live by. If someone tells you to run, you don't stand around and ask questions. That's just plain stupid. As we ran, Yuri tried to explain what was going on, but I couldn't really understand him over all the noise. All I gathered was that we were running from someone, most likely multiple people. The four of us tried to find our way back to the exit, but it was a literal maze in there, especially given the circumstances. Eventually, we stopped to catch our breath at a corner in what felt like a completely different wing of the building. We all agreed that if we just found a random stairwell and went down, we'd eventually find a way out. It didn't sound like there was anyone chasing us, so we decided to move slowly and just be as quiet as possible. After finding a stairwell, we went down a couple floors. Once we got to what we all agreed was the ground floor, we started walking through the hallway, thinking we were in the clear. But just then, this sharp hissing noise rang out from somewhere in front of us. A steady, sharp hissing. That's the best way I can describe it. It sounded like someone trying to imitate a cat. The four of us froze, hoping that whoever was down there didn't notice us. But as we were slowly and quietly retreating back the way we had come, a deep voice said something from beyond the darkness in front of us. He said, word for word, "I should have cut you when I had the chance." We didn't wait another second, we just ran. This time I could actually hear several sets of footsteps behind us, which made things 10 times scarier than they had been before. They were yelling obscene things behind us, stuff about how they were going to kill us and how they had all the exits covered. It was the scariest moment of my life. I thought we were going to have to run back upstairs and hide somewhere in the building. But somehow Yuri took a turn at the right moment, and up ahead we saw the original door we'd come through. We kept running even after making it outside, then through the fence and all the way back to Yuri's car. Yuri drove off, and even though we all looked back at the school, there wasn't much we could make out on account of how dark it was. We weren't sticking around, though. As we were driving away, Freddy told us their side of the story. He said that after they failed to find a way to the roof, they had gone down a floor to look for us. Apparently, Freddy started hearing weird metallic clinking coming from one of the rooms, which he assumed was us. He and Yuri walked inside and saw 3 cloaked figures sitting in a circle, hunched over something on the floor. According to Freddy, it looked like they were playing some kind of game with glass marbles or stones. As soon as they noticed Freddy, they started scrambling off the floor to chase them. Yuri and Freddy ran back up to the 4th floor to try and lose the people chasing them, which is where they found us. There were so many things that didn't make sense, though. The most obvious question, at least the one I had, was why would they toy with us by taking Frank's bag if they really had hostile intentions? Freddy's theory was that whoever was in there thought we'd never be able to find our way out. So, they figured they'd toy with us first. Yuri thought that the room with the pentagram in it was where they were going to kill us or sacrifice us or some weird cult stuff. I was pretty convinced that they hadn't even been chasing us, that they had just gone downstairs to cut us off. Another thing, there must have been at least 4 people in there, since one of them had been messing with us and Yuri and Freddy stumbled upon 3 more. It just didn't add up. I know it doesn't sound that scary when I break it down like this, but trust me, if you were there, you would have been terrified. Thanks for listening.